right, thanks everyone for being here. I only have about 20 minutes, and that is what this session is about. In 20 minutes, this is what I'm going to try to do. Create a brand new application that has, that's a Java-based application with Spring and Spring Boot that has CRUD access to data store for this particular case. I'm going to add tracing, distributed tracing, so you can see who's making the call to what. I'm going to have correlated logging so you can see all the log messages. I'm going to deploy it into a production environment, and I'm going to debug it live in production. And I'm going to try to do that in about 20 minutes. How many people think this can be done? Nobody. Oh, thanks, yeah. Thank you. There's some people I cannot disappoint today. All right, very cool. So let's do that right now. How many Java developers are here? Anyone in Java? Yeah, that's why you're here. Fantastic. That's awesome. And how many people here use Spring and Spring Boot? Just about everyone. All right, very cool. So you probably know the drill. You go to start.spring.io, where you can go ahead and generate a new application. Actually, I'm going to create one with Kotlin today, because we do actually have a pretty awesome Kotlin support on GCP, because it's all JVM languages. We're going to use one of the latest versions of Spring Boot. Going to package it as a Word file today. I'm going to use Java 8. Now, here's the important thing. When you actually add the capabilities to your application, what you can do is to add the different components. So here I'm going to say this is going to be a web-based application with a web RESTful endpoint. I'm going to add this very important thing called GCP support. This is basically a project that Google has created in collaboration with Pivotal. We add idiomatic integrations with Spring and Spring Boot. And that can actually help you integrate with many of the Google Cloud services, including Data Store, Spanner, Cloud SQL, Vision API, logging and tracing, and everything like that, so that you can code your application idiomatically without actually having to use our API. You can use everything through Spring. So I'm going to go ahead and generate this project and see what happens here. So I'm going to do dev zone. I'm going to unpack it. Now, this is the new one, so I'm going to open this up. And I don't really have a backup here today, so we're going to see how this works out. And I have about 20 minutes. I got 17 minutes now, and we will see. OK? So hopefully you can see the screen. And this is a brand new application. And I have one class here, which is in Kotlin. And this is where the application will go. OK? So I'm going to go like this a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is to add data store support. So data store is our NoSQL database. It's a document-based, oriented database you can use. There is no schema, so you can add whatever key value pairs that you want into the properties of this. And one of the easiest things to do is by adding a dependency here in Spring. And we have Spring data support for data store. What that means is that you can actually just create a POJO, or in this case, in Kotlin, this will be a data class. I'm going to call it person, something like that. Person. I can't really spell today. Oh, sorry. Demo fail already. I'm going to say var with ID. So I'm going to have an ID field that's alone. And this can be null for now. And I'm going to do a name, which is a string, and can also be null. Now, what I can also do is to, with the Kotlin, I need to use the question mark here. OK, I'm going to use Spring's annotation here. I'm going to add it as an ID with the ID field. ID right here. Capital ID. There we go. And then to map it to a data store entity, all I need to do is to use the entity annotation here. If I can find it somewhere. Entity. There you go. And I'm going to build this in a second. OK? So it should actually go ahead and download my dependencies and build everything for me with the right annotations in place. So I'm going to wait for that to happen. And it didn't. So what happened here? 1 second. I think I may have missed one thing here with the data store stuff. Let me just make sure I have this. Yep. And one fallback here is to just go back to the console. There's a little icon I should have clicked, which says, do you actually want to download the dependencies? And I think I said no. So that's a little problem there. So I'm going to go ahead and do a clean package here. Whew. So we're about 5 minutes in, and we got 15 minutes to go. We'll see. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, there we go. Unresolved entity, of course. Yeah. So I do need to import it into my thing. Oh boy, what happened here? Google Store. Hold on. Let me just do one more thing here. Sorry. All right. So I'm gonna try something else very quickly here. I'm gonna get rid of this because what happened here is that when Maven is added, we added this new dependency. I needed to refresh this project somehow. So I think in here somewhere, there's a little Maven thing. There we go. I should probably re-import it so that it actually goes out and get all my dependencies downloaded properly in this case, right? So let me try this again. Hopefully this will come out. Come out? No? All right, so in that case, I'm just going to go ahead and find this somewhere. I'm going to have to go ahead and find it. So I'm going to go ahead and import org.spring.cloud.gcp. OK, that's there. Data, that's good. So we have data store, core. And I think we should have an annotation here somewhere that's actually of the node of entity, which I'm not seeing for some reason. Mapping, there we go. And I do remember where this is. OK, good. All right, so now we have the entity map. I'm going to go ahead and create a CRUD service. This is going to be called a repository. This is called what we call a DAO, a data access object. So with that, we can go ahead and just use Spring, idiomatic way of doing it. I'm going to call this a person repository. I'm going to go ahead and extend the data store repository interface. So we have something written here called data store repository. And I'm going to give it a type of the domain domain object I'm going to use, and also the type of the ID, which is long. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and expose this onto the REST service as well. So I'm going to use an annotation here called repository REST resource. And that's all it takes, aside from the little digress here with the annotation and the packages. But this should be all it takes, OK? So I'm going to go ahead and compile this. Hopefully, if everything compiles. And ultimately, I'm going to run this. How many people think this will just work? Now I kind of screwed this up a little bit. Yeah, that's what I thought. So we'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and run this from here. So I'm going to do a skip test, because that's what I do. I don't like to run tests. I'm going to do Spring Boot and run. And what this should be able to do is to run this application on port 8080. And I should have an endpoint called persons. And that will then be able to allow me to read what's in data store and allow me to do a post into data store and store my data. OK? So everything is up and running about 4.5 seconds right here, which is not too bad. I'm going to try something really cool here. I'm going to use my IntelliJ IDE. I'm going to try this thing called new HTTP request. So I'm going to say test requests. And this is really cool. So what I can do is to do, let me see here, GTRP. So you can actually write out your URL here in the IDE. I'm going to say persons. I'm going to see what's actually there. I'm going to go ahead and run this. And we should be able to see the get method here. And we actually do have some return values. OK? Thank you. That's just the first part of it. But there's nothing in here. There's nothing here, right? There's nothing in here. Why? Because there's nothing in my data store. So to put something in here, I'm going to do a let me see here, post with JSON right here. OK, so I'm going to do 8080. I'm going to post it to my persons endpoint. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And I'm going to post maybe my name here. So I'm going to say name is Ray. Whew. A lot of pressure in 20 minutes. There's no room for fixing things. And OK, I think that worked. So over here, you can see that I did the post. Not only that, I got a URL that actually pointed me to the data store location. That's the data store ID that's auto-generated. And just to show you this is actually real, I do have to go to my dashboard here to my data store. And we should be able to see this new entry that I just created. So if I go down to the kinds, we have the person kind. And we should have the entity here. Sorry, let me go to the entity. And that is a new data entry that I just created. And I should be able to also go back to my IDE and just show you what the person's endpoint now returns. Now, rather than having no records, now I have one record in here. Right? Pretty cool. So we got CRUD access. We can do deletes. We can do updates. We can do all of these things. Now, of course, in a typical microservices environment, that is not enough. You probably end up using the data store for something else. So for that matter, I'm going to cheat here a little bit with a little shortcut. I'm going to create a hello world controller. That is a REST controller in Spring's terms. I'm going to have a mapping here with a /hello as the endpoint. I'm going to be able to say hello with the name as a request parameter. And for this, what I'm going to do is to actually reuse my repositories. I'm going to say private val person repository. I'm going to inject it into my controller. And when somebody says hello, I'm going to use the repository to also save this record. So I'm going to say save person, name is the name, and something like that. Now, of course, that is probably not enough. You probably want to make a call to another service. I don't have time to write another service for that matter. However, I can simulate one. for that matter, what I'm going to say is I'm going to say hello to everyone. I'm going to say hello to a few people. Myself, Mandy, one of the first person I worked with when I joined Google Cloud, and Jisha, who was one of the engineers who worked on this project called Spring Cloud GCP. And I see Ludo in the audience over there, so I'm going to say hello to Ludo as well. And what this will do is to basically make a URL, REST call, to the hello endpoint, going through all of these names and say hello to each person, okay? And in order for me to do this, I do need to have, in Spring's term, a REST template. So I do need to have a little bin here that allows me to make this request a lot easier. I'm going to go ahead and use the injection here. I'm going to say private val REST template, so that it's automatically injected into my controller. And finally, I'm going to say hello to everyone. Whew. So let's give it a try. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my terminal. Where's my terminal right here? I'm going to stop this. Rerun this and do a skip test, maybe do a package and Spring Boot run. Okay, so now I just went from a CRUD service to another service where I can say hello to. It's going to save the data, and also something else that's going to say hello to 3, 4 different people. All right. So let's see how this works out. So everything started. For this one, I think I'm going to go to my console instead. So I'm going to do this right there because I like this view a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and say Claro localhost 8080 hello. And name is, I think Tamal is in the audience. I'm going to say hello to Tamal, who's from Weave. Yeah. And there we go. So I can say hello to Tamal. And there we go. We can also see the info log message here. So now let me try to do the O. Let me say, rather than doing the curl localhost with the hello, let me just do O, like that. And I should be able to say hello to 4 people now, right? And every time I say hello, remember it's saved into my data store. So for that matter, if I come back here and do a little refresh, this is real. That I'm not like, none of these is fake. None of these is pre-made, all right? So then what do? If you're making a code to another microservice, in this kind of architecture, observability is very important. What that means is that you should be able to see one code to another. Via HTTP or messaging or whatever, you should be able to see how the messages are flowing. To do that, we have a really, really easy way in Spring, and especially with our integration. We can actually use Stackdriver trace, and all we need to do is by adding this one dependency, we will automatically hook into your application, and we know where the request came in, we know what headers to propagate, and now we can have trace propagated to Stackdriver automatically. Furthermore, what I'm also going to do is by adding a logging dependency here, so that all of the log messages can actually go directly into Stackdriver logging, and something happens after that really, really cool. Now, because this is a demo, so typically you don't actually sample every single request. You don't really trace every single request. But because this is a demo, what we need to do is to actually trace everything. So for that matter, I'm going to up the probability of a trace to about 100%. So here we go. I'm going to say probability of a trace is 100%. So I'm going to trace 100% of the request. Now, finally, the last thing I need to do is to configure my logger. To do that, in Spring, they use logback by default. So I'm going to create a new logback configuration. And what I can do here is, of course, add a logback configuration. I do have one here for API and console. So what this one does is that it's going to log to the console so I can see it on my local machine. But I'm also going to send the same log messages to Stackdriver logging as well. So let me go ahead and clear this and restart and run. Now, we are about 15 minutes in. We will see how this works out, OK? So I'm skipping tests, best practices ever for a demo. And we'll see. OK, so let's keep, yeah, there's a little error, but that's OK. That's kind of expected. That's an expected error exception. We're going to fix that in the future releases of this. But we should be able to see 8080. I'm going to say hello. Name is DevZone. That's where we are right now. And I'm going to say hello to everyone as well. So I'm going to say hello, curl localhost 8080/O. Now, one thing that you may have noticed is that in the log messages, not only do we see the log, the message itself, what we also see are these weird IDs. These are trace IDs. Actually, the first part of it is the trace ID, and the second part of this is the span ID. And these IDs are automatically captured by our trace starter and propagated to the log messages. What that also means is that if I go back to my trace console for Stackdriver trace, I should be able to see that particular request that just came through. And I can probably see it here. Okay, so I can see I said hello to all. I can see that I say hello to Ray, Mandy, and Jisha, and Ludo. But here's the best part. If you click on the little thing called show log, you can see all the log messages correlated to each of the span, each of the trace. This is super, super useful when you're trying to debug and figure out what happened to your application in a production environment. Now, with the last 4 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and deploy this into App Engine. If you don't know App Engine, it is the platform as a service. In my mind, it is the original serverless because you can scale out your application to however many instances you need. It will also scale back into 0 when you don't have any more requests. So we have this tool called the Cloud Code. It used to be called GCP Tools. But this is a plugin you can add to your IDE. I'm going to go ahead and add App Engine support here. And what this will do is to add a little configuration file for me so I can go ahead and deploy my app. Okay? All right, so it added this thing called the App Engine web.xml. Now, of course, with the newer version of the App Engine, we can run Java 11 as well as a jar file. But just because of the demo, I'm going to go ahead and up the instance size. I'm going to do a manual scaling just so I know I definitely have one instance running somewhere. And then I'm going to use the IDE to actually do the deploy. Okay? So let me see if I can get to IDE here. All right. So from the tool, I can go ahead and configure my App Engine deployment as well. So I'm going to go ahead and edit my configuration. Now, this is all within the IDE. This is all within the Cloud Code IDE. And I'm going to go ahead and deploy my app into my awesomely named project called Wise Coyote. Okay? And then I can give it a version name. I'm going to call it the version of DevZone. Maybe I promote it, maybe not. Let's not promote it for now. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I'm going to click Run. And this will actually deploy my application, all packaged up, uploading only the files that have been changed into App Engine. And we're going to provision the computing instances for you behind the scenes, the computing instances of this app. And we're also going to give you an HTTPS endpoint. And it'll just be ready to go and ready to be used. And over here, you can see that we also have the URL. So this is a devzone.wisecoyote, whatever, apps.com. And then down here is the default URL. Okay? So, oh, I see. I think I did make a mistake here. I do need to use a B4 instance rather than F4. So I'm going to go ahead and change that and do the deployment again. All right? So it's going to go through this motion again. It's going to upload the whatever files I changed and go ahead and provision this environment for me. All right. This may take a little time, probably about 20 minutes or so. No, I'm just kidding, no. It should probably take like a minute max, but we will see what happens. But oh, look, because I already uploaded the files in the previous failed deployment, the second deployment, it actually knows I didn't change any files. So it uploaded 0 files for me, right? It's really, really intelligent and smart like that. OK, so now my application is up and running. I should be able to go ahead and see it. Oh, my goodness. I have like 1 minute left. And now we're just waiting for the application to boot up. And eventually, we can actually see it, right? So this is actually running in a production environment. I can see the person's endpoint. I can see everything that I just created. And this is running in App Engine in prod. Now, here's the last thing I want to show you. Let's assume something bad happened. It happens to me all the time when I'm live coding. We can actually debug this application live. We can actually go to Stackdriver Debugger. And we should be able to find my application here, which is the DevZone version of it. I can actually attach my application, my source code, into this application. I'll upload it. And then have you ever wondered, like, hey, what did that user enter? What was the input stream or whatever, right? If you want to find out with the proper permissions and stuff, you can. So what we can add is what we call a snapshot point. So I can add a little snapshot point here. This is not a breakpoint. It would not stop the world. It would just capture the state of the application as the code flows through it. Okay? So to show you this last thing, I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. 1 second. Whew. So I'm going to go to my dev zone. I'm going to say hello to someone. Anyone? I don't know. I'm going to say hello to Gloria, for example. Now watch the application on the right. Did you see it? Was it too fast? As soon as the application went through that line of code, we captured the state. And if we go into it, we can see all the variables that was in context of that particular call. I can also see all of the code stack. And this is a very, very easy way to troubleshoot. Now, lastly, if you ever forgot a log message, this is what you do. You go to log point, and you can just do what I like to call binary debugging. Why? With log messages, because this is what people do. You say, first of all, I'm starting from here. And then you say, well, if everything works, I should end here. And if it doesn't get there, you put something in the middle. That's why it's called binary debugging. So like, I'll be like 1.5, maybe something went wrong. Now, every single time that the application goes to these lines of code, these log messages will also be added to your log automatically without you having to redeploy. Okay? So that's all the time I got. And if you want to see more of this, you can join my session, a full 15-minute session on all of these things and more tomorrow at 2 p.m. All right? So thank you so much for being here. Cheers.